Ishtaki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Pankajanabhaya Namo Pankajamalini Namo Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangrate. Hare Krishna, welcome to today's Bhagavatam reading. We are reading from Canto 3, The Status Quo, Chapter 7, which is Further Inquiries by Vidura. And we will be reading text 19. The focus is on text 19, but we'll also just quickly read text 20 because I believe tomorrow's Bhagavatam class is not happening. So, text 19. Yat sevaya bhagavatan kotastasya madhudvisha ratiraso bhavet tivra padayor vyasanardana. Yat sevaya bhagavata kutastasya madhudvisha ratiraso bhavet tivra padayor vyasanardana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. By serving the feet of the spiritual master, one is enabled to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of the personality of Godhead, who is unchangeable, who is the unchangeable enemy of the Madhu demon, and whose service vanquishes one's material distresses. Purport: the association of a bona fide spiritual master, like the sage Maitreya, can be of absolute help in achieving transcendental attachment for the direct service of the Lord. The Lord is the enemy of the Madhu demon, or in other words, he is the enemy of the suffering of pure devotee. The word Rati Rasa is significant in this verse. Service to the Lord is rendered in different transcendental mellows, relationships, neutral, active, friendly, parental, and conjugal. A living entity in the liberated position of transcendental service to the Lord becomes attracted to one of the above-mentioned mellows. And when one is engaged in transcendental loving service to the Lord, one's service attachment in the material world is automatically vanquished. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.59, Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Okay, let's read 20 as well. Like I said, my focus is going to be on 19 because that was my verse. Okay, 20. Durapahiyalpa tapasa seva vaikuntha vartmasu yatro pagiyate nityam deva devo janardana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Persons whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees who are progressing on the path back to the kingdom of Godhead, the Vakunthas. Pure devotees engage 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of the demigods and the controller of all living entities. Purport: the path of liberation, as recommended by all authorities, is to serve the Mahatma transcendentalists. As far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, the Mahatmas are the pure devotees who are on the path to Vaikuntha, the kingdom of God, and who always chant and hear the glories of the Lord, rather than talk of dry, profitless philosophy. This system of association has been recommended since time immemorial. But in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, it is especially recommended by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even if one has no assets or favorable austerity, if he nevertheless takes shelter of the Mahatmas who are engaged in chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, he is sure to make progress on the path back home, back to Godhead. Another really, really beautiful verse, but maybe we can come to it sometime later. Okay, so We'll start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swavadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitansya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Papanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo 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 Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Veshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome, dear devotees, to this morning's Bhagavatam discussion. Once again, I'm completely unqualified, but these verses are so wonderful that I take the opportunity for my purification. Although after yesterday's very wonderful discussion by Jagadananda Prabhu, I don't have very much to add, but I'll share what I have prepared. And I seek the blessings of my Guru Maharaj and all of you wonderful devotees, so I can speak something of little value. So we've been hearing that, in this chapter, after Vidura has heard about creation, the universal form, etc., from Maitreya Rishi, he is continuing to inquire, right? And this chapter is further inquiries. He is continuing to inquire submissively from Maitreya Rishi. And his questions in this chapter are related to Ishvara, to the Jiva. And specifically, he starts with, why does the pure soul get so entangled in nations, and suffers so much, although the Supreme Lord is in his heart? And Maitreya Rishi has very wonderfully, and with great clarity, answered these questions. And he said specifically that it is because of Atma Viparyaha, or misidentification of the Jiva with matter. So, with matter, aka this body of ours, right? And so the Jiva is basically impacted by anything related to this body. And that's why, if you think about it, we get so angry when somebody says, you are, maybe fat, or you're short, or something like that, right? Or if somebody cheats us, and steals our money, as an example, right? Because we identify with everything that's related to this body, and everything that belongs to it. So first, so to say. And all the speakers have been speaking, explaining those verses so nicely, and how Maitreya Rishi even gives a solution, to this problem. And he says that bhakti, or devotional service, is the solution. Devotional service vanquishes that misery that the jivas are experiencing in this material world. And how does this happen? He says, by engaging our senses in serving the Lord, by hearing and chanting the Lord's glories. Now we know that, this is actually for ISKCON devotees, it's fairly basic, right? It's 101, because we constantly hear, by Prabhupada's mercy, that we are not this body, we are the soul. But still, in this particular chapter, Maitreya Muni has given such profound examples to explain, this relationship. It really helps to, helps with that, realizing and understanding. At least to me, I felt it really helped to internalize that concept of, I'm not the body but the soul. And Vidura also is quite overwhelmed, upon hearing the answers to his questions from Maitreya Rishi. Now, one thing to remember is, Vidura has been on pilgrimage, right? He's, since before the Kurukshetra battle, he's been visiting holy places, and he's, presumably been talking to many sadhus. But yet, he feels fully satisfied by Maitreya Rishi's answer to his questions, right? And the thing is, you wonder why is that? Because we've even heard that Maitreya Rishi was not really a pure devotee either initially, right? But we learned that very recently he had received the association of Krishna, and that changes everything, right? So he actually participated in the conversations between Sri Krishna and Uddhava, and he even got some, special instructions from the Lord, right? So, that's, that's the difference, right? So Vidura very gratefully, shares his realizations. He says that my doubts are completely clear. And then, like we heard yesterday, he says that he is convinced that this material manifestation has no substance. And he also says that I will realize this by serving at your lotus feet. That's what he tells Maitreya Rishi. So why is that? So why is that is the answer given in today's verse, right? So today's verse says that by serving the feet of the spiritual master, one is enabled to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of the personality of Godhead, who is the unchangeable enemy of the Madhu demon, and whose service vanquishes one's material desires, distresses. Yeah. So what does serving the feet of the spiritual master mean? Obviously, it's not literal, right? It's not that we grab the lotus feet of our spiritual master. In fact, most elevated devotees do not allow people to touch their feet. Right? We know that, right? So what this means is by following the instructions of our Guru and serving the Guru's mission. Right? So tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. And of course, also by serving the Guru directly. Actually, about direct service to the Guru, if time permits, I'll share a wonderful story of direct service to Srila Prabhupada by Grace Malati Mataji. So what is saying is that by serving our Guru, by serving his instructions, by serving his mission, by serving him directly, one is enabled to develop transcendental ecstasy of the personality of Godhead. So that is benefit number one, right? One can develop transcendental ecstasy of the personality of Godhead. Who is the unchangeable enemy of the Madhu demon, and whose service vanquishes one's material distress. So that's benefit number two, vanquishes one's material distress. So the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that the Lord is the enemy of the Madhu demon. And he says, or in other words, he is the enemy of the suffering of his pure devotee. So he is the enemy of the suffering of his pure devotee. And that is why the Lord himself comes again and again. He descends upon this material world to mitigate the suffering of his devotees. Paritranaya sadhuna vinashayasya dushkrita. So there's a funny story. Once Akbar asked Birbal. So we know, right? Akbar is Muslim. Birbal is, Sanatan Hindu. And so he asks him, why does your God have to come to this world again and again? As Ram, Narsimha, Krishna, so many of the incarnations. Why can't he send his servants? Right? I mean, a fit question for an impersonal thing. So anyway, so Birbal says, I'll give you an answer. Give me some time. So one day, Birbal and Akbar were taking a walk in the palace gardens, and there was a beautiful, nice lake over there, and Akbar's children were also playing there. So suddenly, as they were, talking, taking a nice walk, Akbar's little boy fell into the water. Now, of course, there was, soldiers, servants all around, but Akbar did not think about anything. He himself jumped into the water to save his son. And he got him out. When he got him out, it actually turned out to be a doll, similar size form of his son. So Akbar was like, what is this? And, Birbal had actually arranged it to make a point, right? That when someone dear to you is in danger, or is suffering, you don't wait for someone else to go and rescue, right? And that's why the Supreme Lord himself comes again and again, with all his compassion, and love for us, his jivas. So he comes again and again to alleviate the suffering of his pure devotees. So wonderful. And so the purport says that serving the bona fide spiritual master like Maitreya can help one achieve transcendental attachment for direct service of the Lord. So again, how does that happen? And that's also there in the purport. Our attachment to this material world gradually declines and is replaced by attachment to the service of the Lord. So we hear again and again that wherever our attention goes, that's where our attachments are also. So, of course, generally these days, most of our attachment is to, WhatsApp, maybe Facebook, right? But that attachment can actually be replaced by attachment to service of the Lord. Like in Bhagavad Gita 2.59, it says that Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasa varjam raso yasya param drishtva nivartate. So it's like, if we are eating plain dal rice, right, and someone brings pulao and paneer and gulab jamun, one will automatically opt for that higher taste, right? So also by serving the spiritual master, all these mundane attachments can be vanquished. So to understand that a little better as to how serving the spiritual master is so important, I thought of talking a little bit about Guru Bandhana, right? Shri Guru Chara Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadmahu. So we sing Guru Bandhana every morning. That's why Narottam Das Thakur. We even read the translation every morning. But I feel like, at least for me, I just quickly read the translation and move on to the next thing and don't really take it to heart. While there is so much, such nectarian message in the Guru Bandhana. So I thought I'll delve into that a little bit, take some time out in today's class. So that first line, Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakati Sadma. The meaning is that the Gurudev's lotus feet is the only place, Kevala, only place from where we can get bhakti. Okay. And therefore, says, Bandhamo Ishabdhana Mate because that is the only place from where we can get bhakti. I worship those lotus feet very carefully. Shabdhanmate. And then says, Jaharo prashade bhai, e bhavo turiya jai. So by his prasad, what is that prasad? His mercy, right? Or his grace. So by his mercy, we can cross over this bhavasagar, bhavatoriyaja, this ocean of nations, this repeated cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Nobody wants to continue in this ocean, right? I mean, especially those of us who, with some fortune, we have come into the bhakti movement and have some understanding, of body and soul and how soul is eternal. We definitely want to get out, right? So how can we do that? By the mercy or prasad of the spiritual master. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11.20, chapter 20, I think it's verse number 17, it talks about how this human form can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat having the spiritual master as the captain, the Karnadhar, and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds impelling it on its course. So as a human being, considering all these advantages, if we do not utilize this life to cross the ocean of material existence, one must be considered the killer of his own soul. Right? So having received this human body, we must serve and please our spiritual master with utmost sincerity so he can take us, help us cross over this ocean. Now, the thing is it enough to get out of this ocean of mercy? Right? It's like, if a person is in prison, like we are, in this prison house, right? But if we come out, if you're not nicely situated in a home with a nice job, then it's not very helpful, right? It's like, the person will be loitering around, getting into trouble, maybe end up in jail once again. So to prevent that from happening, the Guru's mercy gives us something else, and that is Krishna Prapti Hoye Jaha Hoite. So along with taking us across this Bhavatoriya Jai, we also get Krishna Prapti. One can attain Krishna. And once you attain Krishna, you're nicely situated, right? Krishna says you don't have to come back again once you come to my kingdom. And that's what today's verse is saying as well, right? That by serving the feet of the spiritual master, one's material distress is vanquished, and one can develop transcendental ecstasy in service of the Lord. So all this happens by the mercy of the Guru. And what is that mercy? How do we get that mercy? Do we get it from the Guru's, maybe his japa bag, or his shoes? It's his Vani, right? His instructions. I mean, all these instructions that he gives, sometimes specifically, directly, sometimes, generally, chant attentively, serve carefully, read the scriptures. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. So that's why the second verse of the Guru Vandana says, Guru Mukha Padma Vakya. The Guru's face or mouth is like the lotus. And the Vakya coming out of his mouth, Chitete Koriya Aika. We need to hold them to our heart. And then, Arana Kori Homo Asha. There is no need to desire anything else. So what does that mean? That it basically means that we have to have complete conviction in the Guru's words. Sometimes we wonder, is chanting 16 rounds, listening to these lectures? Is it really enough? Will it really get me there? How about my family? How about my subsistence? How will I live? There's so many doubts. But here it says that Arna Kuriho Mune Asha. There is no need to have any doubts or any other desires. And why is that? That's because if we are getting everything from this one place, we don't need to look anywhere else. Right? So, Shri Guru Charane Rati Eshe Uttamagati. Rati, attraction or attachment to our Guru's lotus feet, which is his instructions, says is the Uttamagati. It's the most perfect way. And with that, all our desires will be fulfilled. Now, again, we know that bhakti is like the queen, while anything else like mukti, liberation, bhukti, all our fruitive desires, or siddhi are her maid servants. So wherever the queen goes, the maid servants will automatically follow. So with attachment to the Guru's, charan and his instructions, Jai Prashade Pure Sharva Asha. All our desires will be fulfilled. And then Chakhudan Diloje Janme Janme Prabhu She. So the Guru who gives us the transcendental vision, Chakhudan, right? He gives us the transcendental vision. He is my Guru birth after birth. Now this really gives, it gives me goosebumps. What it's saying is that the relationship with the Guru is eternal. And when we hear this, right, it's not that we've heard this for the first time in this, in Guru Vandhana. But then to internalize that is something, isn't it? I mean, recently, in fact, in our Chaitanya Charitamrita reading, we came to a section where Rupa Sanatan as Dabir Khash and Shakar Malik met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Ramkeli. And they're piteously pleading to the Lord to accept them, although they say that we are worse than Jagai Mathai, and so many other things, like with the straw in their teeth, they're saying we are like dwarfs reaching for the moon by asking you for your mercy, but please. So by hearing that, after hearing that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, it's right here. He says in 207. It's in Madhya 207, chapter 1. Yeah. So he says, after hearing the prayer of Dabir Khas and Shakar Malik, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Dabir Khas, you two brothers are my old servants. Old servants." And then he says, he changes their name, right? He gives them initiation to Srila Rupa and Srila Sanatan. And he says, "Now please abandon your humility because my heart is breaking to see you so humble." And then he gives them instructions. And then he concludes with, "Birth after birth, you have been my eternal servants. And I'm sure Krishna will deliver you very soon." So wonderful, right? And, emphasizes that birth after birth, that relationship continues. And then Prema Bhakti Jaha Hote Avidya Vinash Jate. So from Guru, the love of Krishna arises and avidya is destroyed. And what is that avidya? It's ignorance, of course, of that spiritual understanding of who am I, why am I here. And it is also the stacks and stacks of mundane knowledge that we cover ourselves, our intelligence with. Right? Things like stock market data, details of mundane philosophy, mundane sciences, all those things that are temporary, right? All of that can get replaced by prema bhakti, by the transcendental vision given by the Guru. One may say that, well, the Hare Krishnas you are overdoing it. What do you mean? But no, the next line is Vede Gai Jahara Charita. The Vedas sing of the character of a bona fide Guru. And the final verse is Shri Guru Karna Sindhu Adhama Janaro Bandhu So the Guru is an ocean of mercy. And his karuna is limitless, karuna shindhu. Right? So it's not like, if he's giving some mercy to someone, I will not, I'm losing out or I'm missing. In fact, we know, right, that a doctor gives more attention to the sickest patient. So the same way, the Guru also gives more mercy to those who are most fallen. We all often think that, I'm the worst, right? I'm not doing anything, and there's that. So, well, then the fittest candidate for Guru's mercy. And then Loknath Lokir Jivan. So Narottam Das Thakur's Guru is Loknath Goswami. So that's why he says this line, because he says that Guru is the life of the disciple, and vice versa. And then he prays, Ha ha Prabhu Korodaya, Deho More Pado Chaya. So he prays for the shelter of the Guru's lotus feet. Give me the shade of the lotus feet. Hebe Josh Kushipri Bhuvan. So what that means is, if you give me your mercy, your glories will spread throughout the three worlds. Now this one is a little perplexing, right? Why? I mean, what is so special about me? Why, if the Guru gives me mercy, will his fame spread, over the three worlds? So that's because Narottam Das Thakur's mood is that I am the most fallen, right? And that is sometimes our mood as well. So Narottam Das Thakur is saying that by reclaiming me, your fame will spread far and wide. So like if a doctor, doctor curing cold and cough or things like that, it's not such a big deal. But if the doctor brings someone back from the dead, then he or she will become, famous all over the world. So similarly, Narottam Das Thakur is saying that by giving mercy to a patita, an adham like me, you will be famous in the three worlds. So that's Guru Vandana. I know you all already know. It's more for a reminder for me that I thought I would go over it. One other thing, this is the last thing. In the Sandarbhas, Jiva Goswami has said that for me, devotion to my spiritual master is most important. It is more important than devotion to Hari. If I am devoted to my spiritual master, Lord Hari will personally reveal himself to me. So more important than devotion to Hari. This statement, is actually quite difficult to understand, right? But there are many verses, in many places that actually elaborate on this, and help us to have greater faith in a message like this. I have a few lists, but we don't have time. We're out of time already. But the only one place which everybody is aware of is the Guru Ashtakam. We sing in Mangal Arati, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado, Yasya Prasada Nagati Putopi. So if the spiritual master is favorably inclined, one can naturally receive the mercy of the Spirit of the Supreme Lord. On the other hand, if we are defying or disobeying and dissatisfying the spiritual master, then there is no chance of being promoted to Krishna consciousness. So with that thought, I'm seeking Guru Nishtha, praying for Guru Nishtha. I will stop. Please forgive me if I've misspoken anything and add, correct. I know we're a little over. Sorry about that.
Hare Krishna, Cintamani Mathaji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. I was about 10 minutes late to join. More than 10 minutes actually. And then I said, oh, I missed all the class. But having listened to the rest of it, I will be, of course, still wanting to listen the first part. But even this is so heart-touching. I mean, we go through this prayer like in 3 minutes, 4 minutes. What is the reflections? What is it that stays in your heart to do, to execute? I mean, you have put it all in one place, like referring to Chaitanya Charitamrita. And, that's really very, very deep. The attachment to the lotus feet of the spiritual master. And everything springs from there. How you derive your satisfaction in sadhana and devotional process. Thank you very much for giving such an enlightening class. I will hear it again. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
So much, Mataji. Thank you for your encouragement. But yeah, it is, so often I feel so despondent. It's like my Guru Nishta is nowhere. I'm not serving Guru, nothing, but it is so important. And yeah, it is a reminder, to myself to really focus on serving the Guru, his lotus feet, his Vani, so, yeah. And it's here in the Bhagavatam. So
thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Mataji, I also joined the class a little late, but I agree every single word that Sandhya Mataji said. What I really like is, the way, you are a native Bengali speaker. So when you sing those and you translate those, they really mean a lot. Versus somebody like me trying to do that, it would be so artificial. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, the Guru, and there's a reason why Prabhupada has made this as part of our morning program, right? Guru Vandana. It sometimes becomes a ritual, you just sing and move on. But because, like you said, because it's in Bengali, I have that, benefit of understanding it even as we are singing it, and yeah, and it is so profound, so much, so much nectar in it, and so much instruction. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Sachi Sutta Das.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, so good to hear from you.
Thank you, Mataji. So good to hear your class. It was very faith building and very practical. I really like the simple analogy that you gave for complex matters, like how the transition of our mind attracts from the regular dal towards gulab jamun and paneer. It's very natural. We don't need to explain to someone, but it is very common. And the faith building words, like when you worship more the spiritual master, even then Lord Hari is satisfied. A lot of inputs. I wish I hear this class again. Thanks a lot, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. I'm so glad you are you're joining us. So, I'm feeling so emotional to hear from you. But I hope
Thank
you're
you.
well.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so with that, we will stop today. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Premanande. Hari Hari Jai. Shatan Satari Guest. Shaktipa Sindhu Bhai. Thank you, Vishnu. Vishnu.